Welcome to the Legacy Radio Network and the Everything Financial Radio Show. I'm your host, Dennis Tubbergen. Glad you're with me once again today. Well, we have a terrific show lined up for you today. Mr. Jim Babka from the organization DownsizeDC.org will be joining us once again. Mr. Babka was nice enough to join us a few months ago on the Everything Financial Radio Show, and we had such a great response to his appearance that we're going to have him back today. So we'll chat with him in just a minute. Also, on today's Big Government Files segment, did you see that famous Amos, Mrs. Fields, and Little Debbie may now be criminals? You won't believe it. In the state of Massachusetts, they may be. Stay tuned for that. We're also going to be talking about what's going on in Europe. In the last 2 years, 7 European leaders or ruling parties have been forced out of office courtesy of the excessive debt that we're experiencing now in the autumn economic season. Spain is preparing to bail out banks in the midst of a 25% unemployment rate and what I see as a deflationary depression that's occurring in Spain. Bill Gross, who manages one of the world's largest bond funds, say that the Federal Reserve, this past week, he said, the Federal Reserve is getting ready to crank up the printing presses, and the American electorate is a bit uneasy as well. This past week, 36-year Washington veteran Richard Lugar, the senator from Indiana, lost in the Republican primary, and his opponent, a Tea Party-backed candidate, Mr. Richard Murdoch, won with more than 60% of the vote. That's a landslide victory. Also, President Obama managed to survive the West Virginia Democratic primary, but he gave up 41% of the vote to get this, a convicted felon. We don't know who may have stacked the ballot box against Obama, but certainly Obama is not popular in West Virginia given his position on energy. And certainly Mr. Judd, Keith Judd, who is a serial political candidate and is serving a 210-month sentence for extortion down in the state of Texas, paid a $2,500 filing fee, submitted a notarized certificate of announcement to appear on the ballot. He captured 41% of the vote. So this is not a good year to be an incumbent. We talk about economic consequences. We talk about what's going on around the world and in this country and how it affects you and your money at our discovery groups. We will be at the AMG Business Center in Norton Shores on June 5 and June 12. We'll be over at the Spring Lake Country Club on June the 7th as well. If you've not attended one of our discovery groups in the last 3 months, I'd like to invite you to go to personallegacyseminars.com, personallegacyseminars.com, and get more information. We talk about why we believe the current economic winter season in which we find ourselves was entirely predictable. We'll talk about what we believe lies ahead based upon our research and what it may mean for you and your nest egg. We'll talk about why we believe much of the economic growth of the past 30 years has been an illusion and what the consequences will be for you and your money. Again, you can go to personallegacyseminars.com. Just click on the location and date that you have an interest in, and you can get more information there. And if you'd like, you can register to attend our discovery groups. Once again, the website, personallegacyseminars.com. I'm pleased to have with me again on the Everything Financial Radio Show here on the Legacy Radio Network, Mr. Jim Babka. Jim is the president and member of the board of directors of an organization by the name of Downsize DC. Jim, great response to the last time you were on the show, so I'm very glad and happy to have you back again.
Well, that sounds great. I'm glad to hear it. Good to be here.
Jim, for our listeners that maybe missed your last appearance here on the show, could you explain what is Downsize DC, why do you exist, and a little bit about your work?
Well, I would describe DownsizeDC.org as something of a do tank. You've heard of think tanks that come out with policy statements, and you've heard of activists who go out there and try to get things done. We've tried to create an easy form of activism, a way to get some news about what Congress is doing, which we provide on a regular basis, and do something with it very quickly, within a few minutes with a couple of strokes of the keyboard, a couple clicks of the mouse. We provided something we call our Educate the Powerful system, which permits you to take a letter. We usually provide a sample letter daily in our email newsletter called the Downsizer Dispatch. You can copy and paste it or write a personal one of your own. That's even better. and then you can just send it off to your representative and 2 senators. The message is delivered in such a way that those offices know that they're hearing from constituents. They count those messages, and when you do it with downsizedc.org, you're not acting alone. And I think the thing, Dennis, that we were given the most credit for is our Downsizer Dispatch newsletter. Really puts the cookies on the lowest shelf. It gives you it gives you good information, gives it to you in a fairly brief format, and allows you to get on with your day. You've done something good for the country, and you're able to move on and go live the rest of your life.
Jim, there's an old saying that the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and I think there's a lot of people out there that say, I really do need to get involved in politics. I need to be more politically active, and this is an easy way for them to do it. And, I guess I'd like you to comment also, because I think a lot of people, given the current environment, feel a bit of a sense maybe of hopelessness, that their voice doesn't make a difference. If somebody's feeling that way, what would you say to them?
Well, I would, the obvious thing I could say is that we've had, using our system, and usually participating in some kind of coalition where other people are doing something similar, we have had more than 20 legislative victories over the years, in the handful of years that we've been doing this. And so it can make an impact. But I think there's something even more important. I saw a cartoon recently, Dennis. It's had a real big impact on us, and we have put it on our downsizedc.org Facebook page right at the top in the banner. And that cartoon has a politician standing behind a podium. And he's there in a suit, there's microphones, he's talking, and immediately in front of him is a crowd closely huddled together, some of them holding signs. Nothing unusual about this picture until you look at their feet. The politician is out at the end of a plank over an abyss, and all the people on the other end are standing on the plank, and the very first person has just walked off. All this power, all the things that the state is doing, they do because they have our consent, whether it's explicit or implied, but we permitted them to do it. So as we can build more and more people that just simply say no, we don't approve of what you're doing, regardless of what the outcome today is. As we get bigger and bigger and more people simply take acts, engage in acts where they withdraw their consent, they disempower this behemoth government that bothers us in so many different ways.
Well said, Jim, and I guess I've got some issues that I wanted to discuss with you, and we have limited time, so let me jump right in. The last time you were on the show, you explained what the One Subject at a Time initiative was. I'd like you to do that again briefly, and then give us a bit of an update.
Well, we sat down and wrote this bill, and it's a very hard bill to write. C.S. Lewis once said when he wrote the Screw Tape Letters, which is basically an experienced demon's advice to a novice demon on how to eat or destroy souls. He said it was a very hard experience to go through. We had to figure out how Congress was going to game this particular piece of legislation. So I'm not going to say that this is perfect, but I think it goes a long way. It simply says that every bill has to have a clear descriptive title of the single subject that is found in the bill, and then that the bill, everything in the bill, has to conform with that single subject. Now, we've got a couple other things we did to try to deal with those devils in the details types of things in the bill. And one of the things that we did that was very powerful is we didn't make this just a rule because Congress violates its own rules all the time. We actually made it a law. And the way that we did that is if you find yourself in court, you find yourself in a tax action or something else where the Congress did not follow the procedures spelled out in that bill, you can present the evidence that the Congress didn't act properly, didn't follow the One Subject at a Time law, and the judge can throw the case out with impunity.
Now, this bill, Jim, as I understand it, the last time you were on the show, correct me if I'm wrong, has been introduced, so it is being considered. Is that the case?
Yes. Congressman Tom Marino in Pennsylvania, the Williamsport area, which is famous for the Little League World Series. He is a freshman legislator, and he, at the behest of his constituents, a well-organized group of them there, the Williamsport Tea Party, introduced the bill, and we've had 7 co-sponsors since.
Terrific. So I think last time we talked, there was one other co-sponsor. There was a total of 2, and now you're up to 7.
We're up to 7.
Fabulous. So what's the outlook? Is it likely that this will become law, or will it pass the House and get stalled in the Senate?
Well, what's exciting to me is that Congressman Marino's office has been excited by the response that they've received for it, and that after introducing this legislation, Mr. Marino himself has found that it is a very helpful tool in interviews. He's discovering what we knew all along, that this bill has transpartisan appeal. In other words, it doesn't matter what party you're in, and that people think that this is a sound government principle. It appeals to liberal do-gooders. It appeals to conservatives who want the state's power reduced. It just appeals across the board. And he's been able to apply this idea to legislation to which he's objected. He's been able to say, listen, here's what's wrong with this bill, or here's why we need this law passed. And he's taken the opportunity to do it. And his office has been in contact with us at Downsize DC. They initiated the contact and asked us how we could work together to move this bill forward. So I think that this is, I think we are onto something here.
Well, Jim, in this segment, we have just over a minute left, so I think I'd like to take this minute and give you an opportunity to talk to someone who's maybe just joining us or would like more information on your organization. What would you have them do?
Well, the easiest thing that they could do is come to downsizedc.org, pick any one of our campaigns. We've got 3 tabs on the top of the page that relate to campaigns. The Downsize DC Agenda is the one where the One Subject at a Time Act and the Read the Bills Act and some of our core things can be found. But if they click through those tabs, they're bound to find multiple issues, regardless of where they stand on the political spectrum, that will appeal to them. Click on one of those, write your own sample letter, give the system your contact information so it can find your representative and 2 senators and make sure that office knows it's hearing from a constituent. And from there, we'll begin communicating with you with our downsizer dispatch. If you don't like it, there's a link at the bottom of every dispatch. You can click and you can get off the list. But it's just that simple, and it all happens at downsizedc.org.
That is a good place to end this segment. Happy to have Mr. Jim Babka with us again today on the Everything Financial Radio Show here on the Legacy Radio Network. We will continue our conversation with him after these words. Stay with us.